views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to Dynamics of Diversity Radio, scripting the new narrative for immigration with leading experts Kripa Upadhyay and Steve Taneja. This hit show will feature thought leaders and visionaries discussing both challenges and opportunities associated with the dynamics of immigration and diversity in today's world. The show transcends the boundaries of conventional thinking about diversity, removing the borders of our minds while opening our hearts for a new perspective. Kripa and Steve will get rid of that noise that often accompanies discussions on the topic in the media. Whether helping families unite, refugees build new lives, and businesses attract and retain bright young minds, Kripa and Steve remind us of the integrity and insight we need to help keep America in the forefront of change and discovery through the power of its diverse people. Now, here is the Dynamics of Diversity Radio. Hey, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm Dr. Pat. Thank you for tuning us in, turning us on. Also, just want you to know that we're also, kicking this up on Transformation Talk Radio and on our Conscious Business channel and other places. The conversations that I've had here recently, and I'd say in about the past month, I think since the holiday, have been some of the most inspiring conversations I think I've had in my life in a really long time. I think the last time that I was really exploring and fired up was when I was writing papers on the consequences of broken promises and what they mean and how we can strengthen our commitment to each other in many, many ways. What is it about a promise that is made that is held so close to our hearts? Many of you signed on for the promise of growing up in this country. And as part of growing up in this country, there is a psychological contract that gets made, that being here in this country, which we call the United States of America, there are certain things that maybe we don't have to worry about. There are certain dreams that we can have. But what if that was not true for everyone? What if the rules of the game were changing? What if psychological contracts were broken? Today I'm going to be speaking with my very special co-host today about dreams deferred. Do immigrants still have a place in today's America? And joining me here today is Kripa Upadhyay, who is the managing partner of Orbit Law. And she represents corporations, individuals from around the world in business. And the conversation is about employment immigration, but it goes beyond that. Steve, her partner, is not going to join us here today. And, we talk about how these two individuals have teamed up so that we can look at this as not just a word, the word immigration, but as something that connects families, something that connects hearts, something that matters, something that helps people understand who they are here and what they can contribute, and then helps the rest of us understand who people are and what the contributions are across the board. Today, Dynamics of Diversity is the radio show that Kripa is and Steve both co-host and is part of what we're doing today. And as a result of that, we're hitting the ground with Dreams Deferred. Kripa, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be on.
Dreams Deferred. Tell us a little bit about that, because this is a conversation. Do immigrants still have a place in today's America? And I will tell you, anybody watching the march or participating in it over the weekend, clearly we have folks that are just not going to go silently in the night. And I think you're one of them.
Well, I mean, for me, and you know this, I am a first-generation immigrant, and I think my experience in this realm in terms of being an immigrant in this country and what it means to be an immigrant in this country has been very different than the experience of a lot of my clients and a lot of the people that I work with and a lot of the people that the firm serves. As you said, my practice, a great part of my practice is with employers and corporations, but I also take on a lot of asylum cases. The firm obviously works with a lot of people that don't necessarily have paperwork. We purposely don't use the term illegal. We prefer the term undocumented because as a fundamental right, no human being is illegal. They may have documents, they may not have documents, but as an individual, no individual is illegal. So as a conscious decision, we do not use the term illegal, but that is the term used in the immigration legal system to describe individuals present in the United States without status. So as a first-generation immigrant into the country, this is, on a basic level, this is personal for me. But, I mean, as a professional, I've had the pleasure and the pain, unfortunately, of working with people that I've had to see be forced apart from families. Currently working with people that were brought into the U.S. as very young individuals, some as young as just a few months old. This is the only country they've ever known. And now they are, I think, fair to say, paralyzed by fear as to what this new 4 years means for them. They don't know what that means. They don't know if, they're going to be able to stay here or if it means they're going to have to go to a country they've never actually known. And I'm talking about the children that were given documentation under what President Obama called DACA, or the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Now, there's been a lot of advocacy in the last couple of months asking the new president to keep DACA. And it seems, at least for the moment, that will hold. Reince Priebus said, I believe it was the day before, that the president doesn't intend to take away DACA, at least for the moment. He doesn't intend to take away DACA. But I don't know whether that's going to change. We've seen instances before where one thing was said one day and another thing was said another day. So we don't really know how long that's going to hold, or if that is, in fact, the policy. We haven't actually heard from the president himself. We haven't seen any policy come out. My understanding is that there's supposed to be some sort of executive orders on immigration that are due to come out by the end of this week. So we're going to wait with bated breath. But I mean, these are kids. These are youth that have to have, at minimum, a high school diploma. Most of them have a bachelor's degree. Most of them, at least the ones that I've had the pleasure of working with, have more than that. I've had the pleasure of working with people that are working in hospitals as nurses and radiation techs, and working as counselors in high schools. And I have one that's an engineer. I have another one that's a paralegal at one of the big firms in downtown Seattle. These are people that are contributing to the U.S. economy, and find, their parents may have broken the law, but for me, it just seems like we're making the children pay for the sins of the sins of the parents may have committed. And I don't know if it's a sin. I mean, I think it's an error that the parents committed, but again, it's a situation where the parents were motivated by a desire to give their children a better life, and I don't know if I can stand in judgment of that.
I think that if we start to make decisions without, including our hearts in these decisions, I think we're going to turn back the clock decades, not just years. We're going to turn back the clock decades. And, I don't know that much is really gained from fear. I think about, for many people, how they operate in their lives. I was talking about this on the previous hour, Kripa. What I was talking about was the fact that I worked at Bell Labs. And if anybody knows anything about Bell Labs, melting pot isn't really even a great term for it. Most of the top scientists in that company, people that never really came out of their offices, never really, patents, thousands of patents each of them had. Many of them not born here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really sure that we understand the essence of what this country was really made of and why, this diversity has made us as great as we are. And can you talk about that for a minute? Because America should care for a lot of reasons, definitely for the children. But there are other reasons, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, I think the rhetoric, at least the inauguration speech of the president, was very, he said America first, right? Like that's going to be, I guess, the founding, the guideline, or the guiding principle is going to be America first moving forward. And we've already seen that be implemented, within the first week of the presidency. We've seen the end of the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Yeah.
The TPP's out the door. We know that the president intends to meet with Enrique Peña Nieto and also with Justin Trudeau and apparently renegotiate NAFTA. And so presumably parts of NAFTA are now going to go out the door. And I don't know what America first means. I don't know what that entails because particularly in 2017, this is very much an interconnected world. I don't know that any country, America, the United Kingdom, Germany, what have you, any country on earth is going to be able to continue in terms of economic growth and cultural growth with a policy which is we're going to go it alone because we believe we are the greatest country on the face of the earth. We may very well be the greatest country on the face of the earth, but I don't know that in a country that is as interconnected economically and globally that we're going to be able to make the same sort of strides that we have been able to make in the last 8 years, going it alone. And if we're going to talk about, the place of immigrants and the contribution of immigrants just to the United States alone, just last year, 2016, 6 Americans were awarded the Nobel Prize for their work in fields of chemistry, physics, and economics. Those were the 3 that were selected last year, right? It was just those 3 fields that happened to be awarded to Americans. So there were 6 Americans in 2016 that were awarded Nobel Peace Prizes, and the fields happened to be for chemistry, physics, and economics. All 6 were first-generation immigrants, born outside of the United States, but became citizens later in life. If you look at U.S. innovators, companies, patents, things of that nature, U.S. innovators born outside of the United States, 35.5%, so more than 1/3 of patents and companies are for U.S. innovators born outside of the United States, even though that population makes up only 13.5% of all U.S. residents. 10% of innovators were born in the United States, but have at least one parent that is born abroad. More than 17% of innovators are not U.S. citizens, meaning they are here either on some form of work visa or that they are lawful permanent residents of what is colloquially referred to as a green card. Immigrants born in Europe or Asia are more than 5 times as likely as the average native-born U.S. citizen to have created some form of innovation in America. And if you look at something as basic as the engineering schools in the United States right now, a vast majority of students that are currently enrolled in engineering programs across universities in the United States are likely not a majority of native-born Americans or native-born U.S. citizens. And that's just the way it is. That's just a fact. And that's not just to set up an us versus them argument. That's not to set up a us versus them diatribe or a war of any sort. That's just to say we have to be cognizant of what the facts are. The facts are facts. right? There is no alternative facts, as a particular segment would like to believe. Facts are facts.
Well, you must have been listening to my last show, because, you and I both know that, as children of parents and as some of the parents listening out there, can you imagine if your child walked up and you asked them, about something that they did, which clearly they shouldn't have done, or maybe they did, and they proceeded to tell you, well, it's not really an untruth, but I have alternative facts here. I mean, I don't know how we not laugh about this. It's kind of funny, but it's really not, right, Kripa? I mean, it's kind of, but not.
I don't see the humor in it, honestly.
I know.
I don't. I'm just beset by fear. I mean, just to see that language of that nature, alternative facts, is coming out of the highest office in the land, just gives me a sense of complete trepidation.
Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, one of the things that's so important to keep in mind is, to keep in mind the potentiality. But in order for us to do that, when we come back, what is the immigration court system about? Is there a fair court system? We'll be right back with the show, and we'll give you lots of information about orbit law. We'll be right back.
Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion, like how a single word.
Transformation Talk Radio is dedicated to the education and awareness of Lyme disease.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Lyme Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Pat, joined here by
Dr. Nusheen Darvish.
Dr. Pat Basili and Dr. Nusheen Darvish will be bringing the most innovative, groundbreaking information, research, treatment innovations, and stories from those it affects every day.
I'm so excited to be talking about this.
We have so much to share.
Dr. Darvish and I are planning to do is connect the dots.
People suffering with all sorts of chronic diseases, it's time. It is time for them to transform.
Tune into Lyme Talk Radio and help keep our mission strong.
For the loyal listeners out there that have been listening to this incredible show on Lyme disease, we are not going to let you down. We're going to come through stronger and enrich the platform for Lyme disease awareness through Lyme Talk Radio. The message will continue, the conversations will become stronger, and the healing epic.
Are you feeling stagnant or blocked in your love life, career, health, or finances? Experiencing difficulty focusing or setting and achieving goals? Tune in to Spiritual Diagnostics Radio with psychic visionary healers Carol Dorian and Suzanne Evans. Discover the cause and effect of unwanted patterns in life. Tune in every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit spiritualdeed.com.
Introducing the Lucid Planet, a digital gathering place featuring cutting-edge, high-vibrational content that will empower and inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. Visit the Lucid Planet today to stimulate your mind, body, and soul as you connect with a global community of like-minded people. The Lucid Planet is edited by renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly Neff, who is here to help you cope with anxiety, connect to your higher purpose, uncover your true passions, and live your dreams. Dr. Kelly's fresh, compassionate perspective emphasizes growth, transformation, healing, and thriving. Even in the face of adversity, say goodbye to bad news and low vibrational media for good and become part of the larger collective of people working together to navigate the global shift of consciousness and transform the world from within. Join the planet, the Lucid Planet. Visit thelucidplanet.com. Welcome home.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
But I can make an explosion, and all those things I didn't say were wrecking balls inside my brain. I will scream loud tonight.
everybody. Welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in, turn us on. You know, we're so thrilled to have Dynamics of Diversity Radio. Kripa is joining me here today. Kripa, before we talk about the court system, can you let folks know how they can find out more about Orbit Law, your phone number, email, website, and anything else you'd like to share with folks?
Yes, of course. So our website is www.orbitlawpllc.com. We are also on Twitter at Orbitlawpllc. You can obviously call us at the office. The number is 206-623-3352.
Awesome. Thank you. You know, one of the things that I think, at least one thing that we are not even close to mindfully aware of is the court system and understanding the immigration court system and how when people hear court system, they think we're all one big court system, right? But that's not the reality here when we're talking about the justice system for immigration. I'd love for you to take us on a walkthrough of what is that like? This is the world you live in. What is that like?
It's completely the opposite of everything that I think the public is, what the public thinks of when they think court, right? So when the public thinks court, they think of a judge and they think of a jury. And, you know, first of all, there is no jury in immigration court. There is also nothing called rules of evidence. It is a system that, if you ask any immigration court practitioner, not just me, it is a system that is entirely skewed against the immigrant. The way that the immigration court system functions, it's called the Executive Office for Immigration Review, or EOIR. It is a part of the U.S. Department of Justice. So the president appoints the Secretary of the Department of Justice. He then appoints immigration court judges. So the judges are not independently elected; they are appointed by the Department of Justice. So they are effectively employees of the DOJ. The government attorneys are referred to as immigration, what we call ICE Counsel, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, so ICE. The government attorneys are referred to as ICE Counsel. ICE Counsel are also employees of the Department of Justice. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So you have a judge that is basically an employee of the Department of Justice.
Yep.
The Attorney General that is an employee of the Department of Justice. ICE Counsel that are basically employees of the Department of Justice. So so far, historically, the judges and ICE Counsel have been allowed to function relatively independently. The judges, at least, have been allowed to function relatively independently. We're not sure whether that's going to continue to be the case. During John Ashcroft's time, there was interference with the ability of federal prosecutors to do their jobs. I know you're aware of this. That's when we had several of the prosecutors that were thrown out of their jobs effectively from the U.S. Attorney's Office across the country. So we might go back to seeing something like that. The immigration court system is also very different on one other crucial point, which is that respondents, which are basically people that have hearings in front of the immigration court, are referred to as respondents. They are not provided attorneys at government expense, so they have to have their own attorneys. Consequently, what that means is if you don't speak English, which 95% of them possibly don't speak fluently, doesn't matter. You represent yourself. We also routinely put children in proceedings, and that could be children as young as 3 years old. And if you don't have an attorney, well, you represent yourself. So if you are a child that is 3 or 4 or 5, you get to explain to a judge why you are afraid to go back to your country and why you feel that a gang is going to recruit you and what the basis of that recruitment is and why you don't think that the government of Mexico is going to be able to protect you, or why the government of El Salvador is going to protect you, and you get to try and be coherent about corruption in the governments of El Salvador and Mexico at the age of 5.
Yeah.
So that's what happens in immigration court.
Yeah.
But, that's why attorneys are of vital importance. The ACLU and the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project have filed class action lawsuits to try to have at least attorneys appointed for children, for juvenile defendants, but that has not gone very well at all. So that's a battle that continues to be fought. There are attorneys that take on cases, obviously, pro bono, but the need is far greater than, there's still so many more cases than there are attorneys that are able to take on these cases. There's also the other issue, that goes hand in hand with the court system, which is the prison industrial complex. Because detainees, immigrant detainees or immigrants that are arrested at the border are placed at detention facilities that are run by a company called GEO or GEO, which is a privately run prison complexes across the United States. And they run complexes for families as well as for individual detainees. Now, the other thing that I don't know if the American public or the public at large is aware is that there's actually a congressional mandate which says that immigration detention centers must have a certain number of beds that are occupied per day. So there's a mandate for how many people must be held in detention at the end of every day. Otherwise, they're effectively in violation of their contract with, presumably, the government, because that's who their contracts are with.
Yeah. What I love about what we're talking about today is what has happened and what is happening now in literally just one day. We're talking one day, right? Now we're on day 2. What's happened in such a short period of time is there's such a change of power. There's such a change of authority. There's no real challenge or conversation about these folks. It reminds me of a time where my uncle used the term rubber stamping. And, what you and I are talking about today is going to require a universal uproar. And I think that what's happening in the way that you're out there talking about it and the action that you're going to take to help people, I'm like many people, I pray that more people speak out, more people like Chuck Todd speak out, more people like CNN refusing to play press conferences live, more people like Dan Rather speak out. And to the point where there can be a check and balance long enough for us to pause and have a dialogue, right?
Right. And I think on the immigration debate in particular, and I have to say this, I don't think anybody is saying don't enforce the laws. No. Right? I don't think anybody is saying don't enforce the laws. I don't think there's a single person saying don't secure the borders, because when I have these conversations, the first thing that's thrown back is, so what do you want us to do? Let thousands of terrorists in?
Yep.
There hasn't been a single immigrant that's been a terrorist, by the way. Not a single undocumented person has gone out and caused a terrorist attack in the United States thus far. Right? So don't conflate an argument just because you need to make a point.
Yeah.
Number 2, even right-leaning policy institutes are saying that if you want to effectively build that wall and deport, I think the current president said 3 million people. I think that was a number he threw out at some point during the campaign.
Yeah.
It was that he wanted to effectively remove 3 million people.
3 million. Yeah.
Understand that is going to cause a deficit of about $400 to $600 billion in the economy, because that means you're losing a massive portion of your agricultural workforce, a massive portion of your service industry workforce, and a massive portion of your housing construction industry workforce. So unless there is another group of people that's willing to step in and take those jobs, your food prices are going to go higher, and the economy is going to shrink.
There's no question about it. And, there's a very unrealistic idea of how things get done in this country. Very unrealistic. And, I remember when I went back to school and in California, and one of the things that became quite controversial right within our class, you're going to love this, right within our class was a debate that went on with us, students as to how much of the information about labor was really true. In the state of California, really, are there people in California that are unemployed that would literally refuse to take a job of someone working in the fields? When we come back, we'll talk about this and more. And, I'll share a little light, along with Kripa, about what is the reality of this. Are we talking people that are here just sitting around watching television, that's the general consensus? Or would you like to know what the average lifespan is of a strawberry picker in California? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I was blown away. What could I say? It all seemed to make sense. You're taking away everything, and I can't deal with that. I try to see the good in life, but good things in life are hard to find.
If you're one of the millions of Americans suffering from anxiety, you probably know how powerless and out of control this emotion can make you feel. This is why it is so important to remember that anxiety is created by your mind, which means that you can learn to use your mind to uncreate it. Hello, my name is Dr. Friedman Schaub. My award-winning book, The Fear and Anxiety Solution, provides you with a step-by-step breakthrough process to understand and resolve the root causes of your anxiety and build a solid foundation of confidence and inner peace. If you're ready to take your power back, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com. That's thefearandanxietysolution.com, or call 866-903-6463. That's 866-903-MIND.
Registration is now open for the 25th Annual Women of Wisdom Conference. Join the fabulous presenters from around the country on February 16th through the 20th. If you believe in raising the feminine spirit and transforming our world, then this conference is for you. Get your tickets now. One-day and full weekend passes are available. For more information about presenters and tickets, visit womenofwisdom.org. That's womenofwisdom.org.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days, because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Do you keep attracting the same type of guy over and over? Do you believe all of the good guys are taken and you might be single forever? Hi, my name is Deb Acker, and in addition to being the host of Truth Talk Radio, I'm an intuitive life coach and energy healer. I clear energy blocks to all areas of life, including love. Did you know that many times the thing that keeps us attracting the same type of person is energy related? What if you could complete this pattern for good to attract conscious, loving men? Don't think it's possible? Several years ago, this is where I was, and I went on a journey to figure out how to undo this for myself, and I now help others with this. I love helping clients clear this pattern for good to have the love they so desire and deserve. If this resonates for you and you're ready to be truly done attracting the same type of person, I'd love to gift you with my pattern identification session. Simply contact me on the contact page of my website, DeborahAcker.com. That's DeborahAcker.com. And let me know you heard about this gift through Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to connecting soon.
Wow. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. You know, what we're talking about here today is so important. Welcome to Dynamics of Diversity Radio. Dreams deferred. Do immigrants still have a place in today's America? And, before we kind of jump ahead, I'd love for you to share a little bit about Orbit Law, about you, Kripa, about Steve and the work that you do. Again, please let them know how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, sure. So the firm focuses exclusively on immigration law right now. So we have two halves of the practice. One half works with families and individuals that are in removal proceedings. So we work on unifying families, and we help with a whole host of family-based applications, whether it's for people seeking to bring in fiancés or seeking to bring in parents or spouses from other countries. And then we also work with people that are currently in proceedings that are potentially looking to be removed from the United States. And then we also work with people seeking humanitarian relief like asylum for those that may be in the U.S. that are afraid to go back to their home countries. My practice is predominantly with corporations and entities that are seeking to bring in employees from other countries, and that's predominantly because they either can't find people in the U.S. with those talents, or because they found somebody that is really just the absolute best fit, and they need this person to come in and really help the U.S. economy grow, or at least help the U.S. Employees be trained in terms of doing their job, or help them learn new skills. So that's what our firm does. We are in downtown Seattle at the Medical Dental Building. You're welcome to call us or come visit anytime you want. Our phone number is 206-623-3352. We are available. Our website is www.orbitlawpllc.com. We are also on Twitter at OrbitLaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Kripa, one of the things I was mentioning before, and I wanted to get back to it now, is that, we really underestimate the contribution that immigrants have today in America and have had in the past. We underestimate it, we downplay it, or better yet, we don't acknowledge it. And I made a reference to going to school in California and being part of a debate team. And the debate had to do with jobs, unemployment, and availability. And one of the issues came up had to do with contribution. And what was so enlightening about that, and by the way, we did take a trip to a strawberry field. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget it. For those of you out there that are wondering about where your strawberries come from, where your fruits come from, where your vegetables come from, what's involved in that, the labor, the days, the long hours, the sunshine, that is beating down at you 24/7, the ridiculous amount of money that people are paid. And by the way, those jobs are available to anybody out there that's sitting on an unemployment line collecting unemployment. But that's not all that we're talking about today. We're talking about people that contribute beyond our wildest imagination. Isn't this all part of an at-risk conversation here? We're not like saying, oh, wait a minute, those folks over in California, they're at risk. But that scientist over there, he or she is not.
Right. I mean, and I think, there's, number one, there seems to be this misunderstanding, or rather propensity to assume that only people that are Latino or Hispanic or undocumented or quote-unquote illegal in the United States, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody can be undocumented. Undocumented basically means anyone that entered the United States without documents, or somebody that entered the United States on a visa but overstayed. And that could be somebody that came in as an au pair from Germany or somebody that came in on a tourist visa from New Zealand and just never went back. So it's not necessarily or exclusively the provenance of somebody that's, Mexican or Guatemalan or Honduran, that only they can be undocumented. But there seems to be this misunderstanding or misconception that only Hispanic or Latino people are undocumented. And while that is a majority of the community, that is not the only segment of the community that is undocumented. As far as the technology innovation side is concerned, that's, again, I think that's the other misconception there, which is that, it's basically all South Asian companies, that it's all South Asian consulting companies, that all of these jobs are being sent over to India for lower wages, and, it's a bunch of people that are stealing American jobs. That's really not the case. Because if you look at the way that the visas are actually structured, what employers have to do to even be able to get these visas, there are 1,000 hurdles that they have to go through. For example, the H-1B, the much pilloried and much abused H-1B, which is the one that most employers are able to bring in foreign workers on. You apply for that in April, right? And April 1 is when that window opens. Last year, there were about 65,000 visas available, and this is for the entire year, mind you. 65,000 visas available for the year. And immigration offices received about 300,000 applications in the first week, just in the first week alone, right? So employers have to apply for this in April, but the employee doesn't get to start work until the 1st of October. That's a really long time for employers to have to wait without an employee to be able to do that work. I mean, so clearly, if they could find somebody with that talent and that skill that was able to do that job the way that they needed it to be done in the U.S., they wouldn't make that extra $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 investment on a 50% chance that they may or may not get it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a misunderstanding. I mean, have there been companies that have taken the easy way out and abused it? Yes, absolutely. But I don't know that I don't think that it's wise to basically criticize an entire system and to throw everything out, because so far 2 companies have been caught basically doing it illegally and effectively shipping jobs abroad, which is not the intention behind the visa.
Right. We have really globalized an idea to the point of a false representation. I mean, this is really what happens. We grab onto a soundbite, and the soundbite becomes a reality. Then we globalize it. Then we make it a big thing. But you and I both know that in this country, right, immigrants comprise a real vital component of U.S. innovation. We're not talking small numbers here. We're talking I think it's almost 36% were born outside the United States. And then we're talking about, that out of that, we still have 17% or more that are still not U.S. citizens. And so the story goes on and on and on. But yet we choose, or at least our leaders choose, to hold a very different conversation, one that kind of skews the information and presents inaccurate data. And so, you talked about this earlier, and I would love for you to share more about it. There is an impact to the U.S. economy. There is. But there's also an impact to the U.S.'s ability to compete in the world market innovatively, because if folks are asked to leave, guess what? They're going to go to countries where they're going to contribute as they're contributing here. And I don't know what makes us think that if we gather up people and we start to look at them and we start to say, okay, we're going to send millions of you somewhere, that there aren't going to be countries that open up their arms and say, welcome. I think we're missing something here. Yes, there's an impact on the economy, and I'll tell you, it will be swift. It will be swift in places like California, Florida, Georgia. It will be swift. People will feel that immediately. But isn't there another more, slowly festering, if I might say, impact on future innovation?
Well, of course there is. I mean, and if you're looking at, look, as I said earlier, right, if you're looking at deporting 3 million people, you're looking at a complete collapse of largely the agricultural and the service industry, which is, in my, again, I'm not an economist, but I think just on a basic fundamental level, if there aren't going to be agricultural workers to pick up our food, then you're looking at inflation and a massive rise in food prices. Yeah. On the other hand, if you're looking to basically go with this guiding principle, which now seems to be the norm of America first, and you're going to penalize companies for bringing in foreign workers or for hiring foreign talent when we don't necessarily have that talent within the United States, then what you're effectively forcing companies to do or forcing people to do is to set up those companies outside of the United States. But on the flip side is those companies are now in competition with U.S. companies.
Yes.
Right? And so the U.S. is missing out in terms of, number one, in terms of talent, but you're also missing out in terms of being able to innovate and being able to stay in the lead in terms of making innovations and in terms of leading in whatever it is, whether it's science or whether it's technology or whatever it is, right? And that's not to say that, I mean, I think there's this notion that, well, they don't have necessarily, other countries don't have the infrastructure that matches up with the U.S. And I think that's a very myopic view of the world.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't necessarily, I mean, I haven't been to every other country in the world, but I can tell you that the countries that the U.S. is in competition with, countries like Singapore and Japan and even India, which may not have all of their infrastructure needs completely sorted out, they are very much in a position, those companies are very much in a position to compete with U.S. companies, on par. And I think if you're looking at the technology sector, then Silicon Valley and Washington State, so locally, we would be very badly impacted. And if you're looking at agriculture, again, California and Washington State would be badly impacted. So for us, on a local level, we're going to get hit either way.
Yeah. One of the things in particular that I find fascinating with this conversation is, you really can't exclude any dimension of our infrastructure here. We can't. We can't say, you know what, it's going to hit California over here. I'll tell you what, those of you that are thinking, I'm going to go to Las Vegas pretty soon, I'll tell you that the construction infrastructure for those people listening right now, this is a whole nother conversation that nobody is having, right? When we think about construction and we think about construction infrastructure and we think about the jobs that are done in construction, and the talent and the skill that people bring to that, we're not really talking about, let's just say, a cluster of people. This is across the board. 6 of America's 2016 Nobel laureates are immigrants. So we're not just talking about a couple things. How can we change the perspective, Kripa? I want to ask you, because we have to change the way we're looking at this. What is the best way? How do we do that?
Honestly, I think it's really just understanding where we are on a global scale. And I understand that, being in the U.S., and I completely get it. I think, there's this tendency to, even for news agents, even for the mainstream media, to sort of focus on news that's U.S.-centric, right, or U.S.-specific. There's not much focus on the international scheme of things. Yeah. But I think we have to go outside of our comfort zone. You have to be able to look at things from a more global perspective and be able to connect those dots and say, okay, if this is where things are here, then where are things elsewhere in the world, and how is all of this connected? It really is, it's not just when I say this is an interconnected world, and it is, anything that happens in one part of the world is going to affect the U.S., right? And you just need to look at, just look at the stock market. Yeah. And we've seen that happen in the run-up to the inauguration, right? I mean, the president made a comment about one car company, and stock prices in Japan went plummeting down.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that company happens to be out of Japan. Well, that should tell you something.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the price of corn goes up in India, and then stock markets in the U.S. react. That ought to tell you something.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is all interconnected. And so I think other than basically understanding that, fine, for the powers that be, the new guiding principle may be America first. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I assume that there is a reason why they've chosen that to be the guiding principle. But vilification of the other is never really going to serve that purpose.
Right.
And I think just having this myopic view of America first and vilification of anything and everything that doesn't serve that soundbite, if you will, is really only going to hurt the U.S. I mean, economy, cultural health, ability to grow as a nation moving forward. It's only going to set us back several years.
Yeah, yeah. The impact is not going to be one that some people say, the impact will be marginal because it'll be almost like trickle down. And what I say to those folks, I don't think you're up on current events. I don't think you're up on the fact that what we're talking about here is, the fact that we're looking at populations, right? The majority of patents, U.S. patents granted are to foreign individuals. We're talking about 1/4 of all entrepreneurs in the United States are immigrants. We're talking about major companies and their origin, Google, Comcast, AT&T even, these companies being started by what? People that were from foreign countries. There is an education that has to happen. Almost an education that needs to be fueled by some of this information hitting the public on a regular basis. But on another note, you are in the trenches, and I want to thank you for that. What can you say to us today to help us support you at Orbit Law in the journey that you all are taking?
I think for me, the one thing would be don't fall in to the narrative that you hear. I mean, and I think honestly, this is my fervent plea to everybody, whether that is about the undocumented population or whether that is about, companies that are effectively just out to gouge the American populace and allegedly steal jobs and send them off to a country that's cheaper and allegedly people are lining up outside the door to take your jobs away from you. Don't fall into that narrative. Understand that people that are undocumented are not criminals. They're not rapists. They're not bad hombres, as the current president has said. They are good, hardworking people. Yes, some of them have committed crimes, as have a lot of people that live in our neighborhoods, right? I mean, the idea is not to vilify them because they may have come into the country without documents, because they broke our laws. I think the idea is to understand what their motivations were for coming into the U.S. and to see what they've done with their lives. And there needs to be an understanding of what it means to effectively force people to be separated from children that are U.S. citizens, that are going to be impacted in major ways psychologically and otherwise, and what it means for us as a society moving forward. As far as the debate regarding undocumented individuals is concerned, I think there's a lot of vitriol, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of rush to judgment, and I would ask that people just take a couple steps back, take time to understand what that means on an individual level, on a fundamental, basic level, and then make your decisions. And as for, the companies, just because you hear, H-1B being thrown out as a buzzword, don't automatically assume that a company that brings in foreign workers is out to get you or out to replace you or out to ship your job abroad to somebody else. It might just genuinely mean that they actually need a foreign worker because they haven't been able to find talent in the U.S. But more than that, it may actually mean that they need this person to come in and train the U.S. workers to get up to the talent that these people have, right? That could also be a silver lining. So my whole thing is just the vilification needs to stop. And I just hope that people are willing to listen and actually pay attention to the other side of the debate and not just jump to whatever version of facts one side wants to put out.
You've been listening to Dynamics of Diversity Radio, scripting the new narrative for immigration with leading experts Kripa Upadhyaya and Steve Taneja on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Tune in next time for a new perspective on the dynamics of immigration and diversity, ever reminding us that together we are all at the core of innovation, excellence, and positive change. Please visit OrbitLawPLLC.com. That's OrbitLawPLLC.com to find out more about how Kripa and Steve are scripting the new narrative for immigration worldwide.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.